Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk with you about the books that I read in the last month of 2024. December has been a bit chaotic. I had a lot of work to do in the last couple of minutes, but then decided to take off between the holidays, well, at least partially, which gave me a lot of time to read, which is why I read a lot more than usual in a month. But also we had a little shock situation with our little puppers. She had to go to the emergency vet on Thursday night, so we spent all night there. Turns out she has a partially collapsed windpipe, which made her cough on Thursday night, which is why we actually went. And yeah, so she got medication since then, so I'm hoping it will help. She's definitely a lot better now than she was on Thursday. And I'm hoping that that doesn't happen again anytime soon. But if you have some good karma left, please send this over. Make sure that she fully heals. The doctor said that she had some infection that made the windpipe situation a lot worse, but that she should have a happy life going forward. And yeah, we'll see. We'll keep her monitored. We'll keep her activity on the lower level, which is very hard because she's a very active, spirited puppers, even though she's already 13. So please send out good thoughts. But talking about books, we're here to talk about books and about the amazing last reading month that was December. So first of all, I read 12 books. One of those was a DNF, and I read a total of 4,086 pages, which is a lot. That is a lot more than I usually do, and the majority of it I read towards the end of the month in the days that I had off, because I spent a couple of days just reading on the couch and nothing else. So out of those 12 books, 9 were fantasy, 1 was a classic, 1 was a horror, that was my DNF, and then 1 romance. I started 3 new series in the last month. I continued with 2 series over 4 books, and then I finished 1 series, and I'm really excited to talk with you about that one. And from a rating perspective, I had 2 5-star reads, 6 4-star reads, 1 3-star read, 1 2-star read, and 1 book that I wasn't quite sure on how I should rate it. So I'll talk about that in a second. Just to get a couple books out of the way and then focus on the really good stuff. The DNF is Christmas and Other Horrors, which is a horror anthology with a focus on not just Christmas, but really a winter solstice and all sorts of different holidays, events that are happening all around this same time. I like that it was rather diverse when it came to exactly those topics, and it included a bunch of different holiday types and mythical creatures and whatnot from the holiday season. But after about halfway, I was just done with it, and I didn't want to read any further horror stories. The dog situation could have played into that a little bit as well. But yeah, I was just done at that point and didn't feel like short stories anymore. So that is my 1 DNF for this month. And my 2-star rating was an audiobook that I listened to, Holiday Romance. The story itself was fine, but the audiobook narration was not. It was just very monotone, and the way she talked was always the same, and it was kind of annoying at the end. Also, she didn't do the male MC very well, I thought. And then there was one slightly spicy scene that sounded just really awkward the way she was reading it. So it was kind of just turned off the book. The story's fine, nothing special. It's about 2 friends that always catch the same flight shortly before Christmas back home to the family. He is actually an ex-boyfriend of one of her friends, and over 10 years they kind of get closer, and then, stuff happens. It's a romance story. You know what happens at the end of the day. It jumps back and forth between the current flight and then the flight from 10 years ago, or the flight from 9 years ago, or the flight from 8 years ago. So the way the story is told is actually kind of interesting because you learn more about the couple and their history very slowly across the book. Overall, I thought it was too long, and the drama felt way too forced, and then the narration just didn't work for me. The book that I didn't know quite how to rate it is A Journey Thrice Begun by Sean Bobby Care. This was an e-arc. The book is about a young boy called Everett. He grew up in a small town up in the north, very sheltered. He is a bit naive, and he is about to propose to the only woman who never ignored him growing up. So in this little town, always there's one day in the year where everybody proposes. They all get up on a stage and all the boys propose to the women they want to marry. And he's very nervous about it. So to distract himself, he, does other things and kind of jumps from one adventure into another. It has a very whimsical tone. So I had Harry Potter moments, Princess Bride moments, fairy tale moments. It was just very whimsical, and I loved the tone. I loved all the characters around him. The adventures were a lot of fun. And then about halfway through, all of a sudden something really bad happens and the tone of the book completely changes. So it's not whimsical and quirky anymore. It's really dark all of a sudden, and people get killed left and right. I mean, it's interesting. It's definitely something that is different in the fantasy genre, but I found it very jarring and I didn't quite know how to get along with it. That was one thing. And then the other thing was that, especially in the second half of the book, there were a lot of things that happened that just from a plot perspective didn't make sense, were illogical, were badly edited, that completely threw me out of the story. The first part, on the other hand, it was not perfect, but it was really well done. I didn't have issues like I had in the second half with the first half. The writing is great, so the author definitely knows how to write. His descriptions are fantastic, and I definitely was sucked into the book to a point where I couldn't stop reading and wanted to know what was going on. And again, especially more so in the first half of the book. The second half was just such a 180 to the first one that I didn't really know what happened. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this, because I definitely had a good time with it. I really enjoyed the majority of the book, but those issues really threw me off, and I don't know, I don't know what happened there. But anyway, let's get to the rest of the books. One of the series that I started was the Icewind Dale trilogy by R.A. Salvatore. I read Crystal Shard, which is the first book in the Icewind Dale trilogy. If you don't know the Legend of Drizzt or, this general story, this is based in the Dungeons and Dragons universe, and it's very typical fantasy. The Icewind Dale trilogy is actually a bit older. I think, is it from the 80s originally? I'm not 100% sure. There's another trilogy that happens chronologically before the events of the Icewind Dale trilogy, which is the Dark Elf trilogy. I don't think you have to read it in order to enjoy the Icewind Dale trilogy. It gives you a couple more tidbits about the main characters, so you know a little bit of their background. This trilogy plays in a very wintry world, so perfect timing for writing this right now. And our dark elf is living in a city with a lot of different other races. 10 cities, actually. So it's actually 10 cities that are all very close together. And they get invaded, and he and his friends help protect it, and then, an adventure ensues. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm excited to continue with the series in January. If you've watched my January TBR, you saw this book already popping up there. So I'm excited to slowly continue with the Drizzt series. The next series continuation is Malazan, and this is in particular the first half of Midnight Tides, book 5 in the Malazan series. And this book was tricky. That book was hard work, because I actually started this back in August, I think, and then read, 10% or so into the book and then stopped. And then I wanted to continue, but I had no clue anymore what was going on, so I restarted the whole thing. The beginning was hard work, because this feels like a complete new arc again. We have new characters, we have partially a new magic system all of a sudden that is popping up. If you've read this, you know what it is. I'm questioning why we have this, because in the first books, we had a magic system that worked very similarly to this one already. So why did we have to have a new one? Why are we not using just the old one that we already had? That I want to know more of. I feel kind of left on a big cliffhanger on that one that popped up in the first 2 books. So why are we not continuing with this one? Anyway, that's a different rant. I struggled with the beginning of this, but towards the end, so this is the first half of Midnight Tides, so the first quarter of Midnight Tides, I struggled with a little bit. And then the second quarter of Midnight Tides, I started to get into, and I had first moments of, ooh, I'm kind of getting a feeling of why this is such a hyped series. Not that I didn't like what I read before, it was okay, but I was never overly excited or anything. But a couple of things happened here and I was like, okay, let's see how this continues. So I'm really excited this time to read the second half of Midnight Tides in January. Again, if you've watched my January TBR, you already saw the other half of this. So far, Gardens of the Moon has been my favorite, so Midnight Tides might kick Gardens of the Moon off of its first place. Another series that I started this year that I continued this month, and what I'm talking about is the Eric Carter series, and I'm holding up the first book in this series here. I read book 6, 7, 8, and 9 all in December. They are short reads, as you can see, right? They are all in the 200 upper realm, closer to 300 type of pages, and they're fantastic. What an ending. I don't know if this is recency bias because that last day of the year was yesterday as I'm filming this. And oh my God, I did not see that coming, and it was fantastic. I had so much fun reading that. I read those 4 books in no time. It was literally a binge read. I didn't have that in a long, long time. And I was just sitting there, I was like, boy, this was good. So if you're looking for an urban fantasy series with a snarky main character, kind of an anti-hero vibe, noir type vibe, then yeah, Eric Carter is definitely something that I would recommend you trying. The other thing that is amazing in this series that he is taking influences from a lot of cultures. So not just our Western culture, but in the first books, mainly Aztec stuff, but then later Chinese, Jewish, Indian, and a bunch of other things. And he weaves this in such an amazing way. So those were my fantasy reads. Now we're switching a little bit more into the fantasy romance, or romantasy is really actually more the better term, because it is all more romance with fantasy elements versus the other way around. Starting with another series that I started, that is Dangerous Assassin by Elizabeth Wheatley. I heard about her on Instagram first. I actually didn't know she was an author. She just puts out a bunch of sketches, book-related, reading-related on Instagram that I find hilarious. And then at one point I realized, oh, she writes books. So I put that on my library hold and I enjoyed it. Again, no epic fantasy, no purpley prose, so please don't expect any like deep character development or crazy world building. It is a romance in a fantasy setting. Assassin mistreated her entire life. I can go on. It's very typical. If you've read one of these types of books, you kind of know them all. I mean, obviously, you have differences in there, but it's somewhat of an insta-love situation, enemies to lovers. But it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one, and as you can see, I enjoyed it enough to get myself a copy. She had a sale on her website, so I couldn't pass up. Plus, the print quality is really nice. So this is like a really nice, soft, matte cover, and it's really thick paper, and yeah, I'm loving this. I love the covers, so I'm definitely interested in seeing how this continues. Again, I'm not expecting any revolutionary new epic fantasy stuff out of it, but I'm having a good time, so why would I stop reading this? Similar vein, again, more on the romantasy side. It's 3 novellas that deal with Christmas time again. This is a book that I found at LA Comic Con, whatever the other one is called, I don't know. I even got it signed and personalized, so I'm obviously really excited about it. And this was so much fun. My favorite definitely was the first story, which is called, A Frostbite. This is about a young woman that is doing a trip through Europe, and she gets lost in a snowstorm and then ends up in a remote castle, nothing else around. She's let in, and then she meets the owner of the castle, and he is dark, brooding, probably bad history. He's a little bit unfriendly and is not really happy to see a stranger in his castle, that kind of thing. Very Beauty and the Beast. Till she discovers his secret. And I even, as you can see, first of all, I have a lot of tabs in here, but then I even have like things like this. It's just so cute. It was the most adorable writing, and it's just a very cute love story. So the second one is Holiday Ascension. This is more, I believe, it's something akin to werewolves, but it's called differently, Vargyrs. She is an assassin of the elders, whatever that means. And she is sent to a big Vargyr meeting where the prince decides who he marries, something like that. And it's in a German-speaking town. That's the one thing that really bugged me about the story. None of the German was accurate. Spelling was wrong. She used the words wrong. Some of the names are not really German. So I don't know, whatever. Whoever advised her on the German was wrong in a lot of things, and that really bugged me after a while. But anyway, the story itself was a lot of fun. Again, similar situation. She is about to assassinate him, and then things happen. And you know pretty early on what is happening there, but it's just written so well and it's so cute, and I really enjoyed that one. The last one, Wings and Witchlings, that was my least favorite one. This is about twins who are spending their holidays in New Orleans, and one of them gets kidnapped, and then they all of a sudden discover what their heritage is, and it's a lot more than they thought it would be, and they are meant to free someone, blah blah blah. The romance in this one was that was more cringy and awkward. I didn't vibe with any of the characters, so that one unfortunately didn't work for me. But the first two were a lot of fun, and I definitely am looking forward now to check out more of Lauren Petrzilka's work. She wrote another whole Romantasy series. I don't think Laura Homan wrote anything else. I need to look it up, but I don't think she did. Only these short stories together with Lauren. And then the last book that I want to talk about, that is pure romance, although it's a classic, but it is romance, and that is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I read that together with Tori over at Tori Talks, and as you can see, a lot of tabs here as well, in case you don't know what this story is about. This is about a young girl named Catherine who loves to read. She's an avid reader, and there are a lot of great quotes in there that have to do with reading that I can still relate to, and I'm pretty sure every one of you could relate to those quotes. She is visiting, I think it's her aunt or a friend of the family, to spend the summer there. And there she's introduced to society, she is making friends, and it's, nothing really exciting happens. It's just about them having a good time, them meeting other people, her meeting a guy that she likes, and then some complications coming up, that kind of stuff. It's a love story at the end of the day. And I loved this a lot more than Pride and Prejudice. So this is my second Jane Austen that I've read. Put a bunch of notes in here too. And there were just some really cool scenes. And yeah, I definitely had a lot of fun with that. And this book definitely made me want to read more of Jane Austen. Pride and Prejudice did not do that. So I'm glad that I saw Tori reading this, and I'm glad she asked me to read it with her. And those were the books that I read in December. What was your favorite of December? How did you end your year? Did you have anything exciting that you crammed into the last weeks of the year that made it onto your favorite list? Let me know down in the comments. We're not done with 2024 yet, because my next videos are all wrapping up 2024. So there are 2 videos coming up next. One is my stats wrap up. I have a video all stats if that is something you're interested in. Books I read, what genres I read in, interesting insights that I gleaned from all the data that I collected over the year. And the other video are my top 10 books of 2024. That is going to be an interesting list. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see those. But in the meantime, if you want to see what I'm planning for 2025, you can check out this playlist down here where I share my goals, the series I want to read, the releases I'm excited about, all that kind of fun stuff. And with that, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I see you soon with my next video. Bye!